Hey everyone! Before we get started today, we want to thank our newest patrons, Noetical, Emily, and Dell's Bookmarks. Welcome to the team. Today's episode is covering Are the Bennet Girls Okay? A Bedlam Theater Company production, which is playing in New York until December 21st. The ticket link is in the show notes, and we truly cannot recommend this play enough. So now, without further ado, please enjoy a special bonus episode of Pod and Prejudice covering Are the Bennet Girls Okay? With the playwright Emily Breeze and one of the actors, Masha Breeze.
This is Becca.
This is Molly.
We are here to talk about Jane Austen.
We are here specifically to talk about Are the Bennet Girls Okay? By Emily Breeze.
Listeners, if you're new here, I, Becca, have read many Jane Austen novels, watched many adaptations of her work, and also seen them both in theater form and film form.
And I, Molly, am doing all of that for the first time through this podcast.
If you want to hear Molly read through Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Emma, or Persuasion for the first time, you can listen to seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4 of this podcast, respectively. But that is not what we're doing here today. We are not even addressing Mansfield Park today, listeners.
No, this is a bonus episode. This episode is coming out in between two episodes covering Mansfield Park, and you all may have noticed a couple weeks ago we went to go see a play, and we posted about that play on our Instagram because we were obsessed with it. And we are lucky enough to be joined today by both the writer of that play and one of the actors in that play, Emily and Masha Breeze. Hello, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Hello.
Hello. I'm missing the air horns. I was sort of expecting more fanfare, but that's fine. Maybe next
Don't
time.
worry, it gets added in post.
Cool.
We have a wonderful audio producer named Graham. Graham, I'm going to request that you do actually add some air horns in here so that when this comes out for the listeners, they can get the appropriate fanfare.
Please, more air horns, always.
Yeah. We also have a newly minted dab sound effect, and I want everyone to know that we all dabbed when we said, Are the
You
Bennet Girls
dabbed,
okay?
but we can all dab if you want.
Well, Emily dabbed first.
I dabbed because I'm an elderly millennial, and Masha would never be caught dead.
Incredible. Do you two want to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what you do both in the regular world and the Jane Austen theater world?
Sure. Yeah. You want to start us off?
Sure, yeah. My name is Emily Breeze. I use she, her pronouns. I am a playwright in real life and in pretend.
My name is Masha. I'm Emily's sister. I am a comedian and an actor. And Emily and I I don't know, we've worked together on stuff before. For this play specifically, was performing in it or am performing in it, and also wrote some of the music that goes along with it.
Which we are certainly going to get to.
We want to talk about it so much.
So just, we've been alluding to this, listeners, but we were lucky enough last month to see a preview of Are the Bennet Girls Okay? By Emily, starring Masha. And it is essentially an adaptation of Pride and Prejudice that is really hyper-focused on the Bennet girls and in a way that captures, I would say, their experience through a modern lens of girlhood. How am I doing, Emily, on this?
Honestly, I feel like I'm not the expert, so it's great to hear.
Fabulous. Well, we had an incredible time seeing this play, and we were so avid to get the creative team on the podcast here. So, Emily, do you want to give your own brief description of the play, and then we'll get into Jane Austen and all of your inspos before we dive any further?
Totally. So Are the Bennet Girls Okay? Is an adaptation of Pride and Prejudice that centers on the experience of the sisters specifically, and the way that they interact with each other is affected by the external pressures of a masculinized world, is how I would put it.
Very well put. Better than my description, but you've been doing this for a while. But before we dive into exactly just how those masculine pressures exert themselves on our heroines, we like to ask all of our guests about their relationship to Jane Austen with a few questions, starting with, what is your relationship to Jane Austen?
Maj is laughing because I don't have a relationship with Jane Austen. I don't know her. I watched the BBC Pride and Prejudice, I think in high school. I think that's also when I saw the Keira Knightley movie. I believe those are the only Jane Austen films I've seen. I don't think I've read any of her books.
Nice.
I wish her the best. I hear she's doing really well. I love to support women authors. So I think everybody should go buy her books.
Just an up and coming young author.
A bright young star, Jane Austen.
Totally. Would love to meet her someday. She seems cool.
And Masha, what about you?
I mean, I have a similarly, I would say, removed relationship from Jane Austen. To be real, my first encounters with Pride and Prejudice and its like adaptations were I think I watched the Keira Knightley version when I was like maybe 10 and was kind of enamored with it. And then more recently I watched Bridget Jones's Diary with my roommate, which is like technically an adaptation but very loose.
Very, very loose, yeah.
Totally. Which I think this play is kind of too. I mean, yeah. And then more recently when Emily like was sending me the script for this play, that was like my first like this play is in my head what Pride and Prejudice is. And so it's been interesting now to sort of go back. Like early on in the rehearsal process, I started reading Pride and Prejudice and then stopped because I was going through a sort of protracted lesbian breakup at the time and was like, I can't handle any romance in my life right now. And so started reading this book Nevada by Imogen Binney instead. And if anyone gets mad at me for that, it's a book by a trans woman, so you're transphobic. But I mean, I've like since read like plot summary. I've read I think the first like fourth of Pride and Prejudice, and then plot summaries to go along with that. But also, I mean, when
We
we were
both
in
read the
rehearsal.
Spark Notes. Like we both Googled
Oh
it.
yeah.
I read the Wikipedia entry for sure.
I think you read it in high school, right?
I don't think I did.
Totally.
I think I probably said that I did in high school. There were a lot of books in high school that I just didn't read.
Who among us?
Yeah. I mean, the whole concept of this podcast is based on the fact that I never read Jane Austen in high school or college. So I'm right there with you. And I think, honestly, this play, for the first act and like 3/4 of the second act, pretty closely followed what happened. And then, well, I don't want to give it away because you guys just extended, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe our listeners will get a chance to see it. So I won't spoil the ending.
Yeah, I was going to say we need to give a chance to plug, but also not to ruin the ending of the
Yes.
play. So with that all in mind, I want you to take no pressure from the remainder of the Jane Austen questions because we ask these with love for Jane and her work in all forms. So the second question we have is, what is your favorite piece of Austen content? And that can range from the novel Mansfield Park to the Wikipedia entry describing the 2005 Pride and Prejudice. It is a broad range of content that has been created in Jane Austen's name.
Mine is probably the novel Mansfield Park. What they did to that park is horrible, and I don't condone it.
And that field, that man's
yes.
field.
It is
Yeah.
a man's field. I will admit that is canon.
Yeah.
So
honestly,
good.
probably Bridget Jones's Diary. I mean, I watched it pretty soon after the aforementioned breakup and was like, this is awesome. And also, it's like, I don't know. I feel like that that movie, along with this, the thing that I love about like Emily's work and this play specifically is that like Emily writes really well about sister relationships and like friendships and the ways that those exist, especially among like queer people. And these relationships that often get like sidelined in like sort of romantic works of literature or plays or movies. But I think Emily's really good at like articulating the importance of like friendships and sisterhood in all its forms. And I think that Bridget Jones's Diary is also good at that. And also I wish that it had ended with her not getting with either of the men because they both sucked so much.
Well, they fight they break so much stuff.
They're nuts.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
those movies are kind of insane. I've only seen the first one, but I know that then they go on to make like
There's a second one?
there's
There are
like
5, I
4.
think, at this
5?
point.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
She has a baby. Like,
Holy shit.
yeah.
I have seen the first Bridget Jones movie like 1,000 times, and I've seen none of the ones that go after that because I think after that it's
Mhm.
kind of like the next 3 are her like still in the love triangle between Hugh Grant and
Yeah.
Colin Firth, and it's like I think we settled that one. We already decided what this is.
Yeah.
But I've heard the last one is very good, and I don't have spoilers for it except that it's her at a later stage in her life, and there's some interesting stuff that's been explored through that. But I do agree. I do enjoy Bridget Jones' Diary. I am not immune, I'm afraid to say, to Colin Firth in any form. But
But do you like intellectually by the end of the movie, does it convince you? Like, are you rooting for him?
I maybe not intellectually, but spiritually, emotionally,
I mean,
viscerally, I
totally.
can't not root for him. So I'm
Yeah.
trapped. But
They have that great. I'll stop talking about Bridget Jones's Diary in a second, but they have this like, is it? Oh fuck, I'm gonna mix it up. I can't remember if it's Donna Summer or Diana Ross. Someone's gonna crucify me for this, but it's a cover of Ain't No Mountain High Enough when she's like running through the street naked. It's so, I mean, that does get me, even though I'm like, who gives a shit about this guy? Because he's so weird and whatever. Anyway,
Well, that carries through from Pride and Prejudice. So,
oh yeah.
yeah.
yeah,
Human
yes.
disaster, Mr. Darcy.
Yeah.
Totally. I will say, on the note of soundtracks, I did last year write the entirety of a play to the song Nobody Does It Better, but they had taken it off of Spotify, and the only place that it was available on Spotify was in the Bridget Jones's Diary soundtrack. And so I have listened to technically, I'm just like waiting for my Spotify Wrapped to be like, you are the #1 fan of the Bridget Jones Diary soundtrack. So I think it was like 72 hours of that one song for
Oh my god.
the purposes of writing. Yeah, I mean, I really like Clueless. I think it's Clueless is a great movie. I really loved Fire Island. I thought Joel
Yeah.
Kim Booster was great, and I thought that was really fun and like a fun send up. I also think in that movie was like to me one of the best descriptions of sexual assault that I've ever seen in media, and how you deal with that with your friends specifically, and how friends take care of each other, and how it like sucks but is not a soul defining moment in a person's life. And I thought that that was really cool, and especially like sexual assault inside of the queer community, I think is not really discussed or explored very well very often. And so I just like really, really appreciated that in that movie specifically. But I mean, the whole movie is great, and I really like that. And I love the soundtrack to the 2005 Pride and Prejudice. Is it Des Plats?
I don't
Alexandre?
remember who it is, but it is much beloved not only by these two podcasters, but by our whole listener base as well. We all know even the 2005 Pride and Prejudice is a little controversial in the Jane Austen space. We are pro,
Mm.
but the thing everyone agrees upon, even if they don't care for the movie, is that it is like the best soundtrack of all time.
Yeah. And Fire Island is one of our favorite adaptations as well.
And I think perhaps the most faithful contemporary adaptation of the story.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's tremendous. I think we'll get into it with Are the Bennett Girls Okay? But it's very difficult to capture the pressure of the etiquette and the like specific language of courting. And Joel Kim Booster really tries to uh, supplant the sort of Regency era courting etiquette with like the like specific etiquette of like the queer community on Fire Island in a way that I think translates the story very, very well.
I just wish they hadn't made it gay. I don't know why they
Ruined the
have to
whole
be
thing.
so in our face. Yeah,
It's like, we get it.
yeah.
We get it.
Question number 3. Which Austen character do you relate to the most?
I would say the really smart, pretty one. The one
Yeah,
who's just like the smartest
Yeah.
and the prettiest and the funniest, and the one who makes her therapist laugh.
Okay.
totally.
Yeah.
I mean, in Emily's adaptation, Are the Bennett Girls Okay? I'm playing Mary, and I know that the Mary in the play is substantially different from Mary in the novel, but I really relate to Mary in the play. And I don't know, like the first time that I read Emily's adaptation, I was like, "Oh no, these are all arguments that I've had with my sister who wrote this play."
Hmm.
Um, and so, but like it's been nice to I feel like I've seen myself in all of these characters at different times, and I think something else, not to gas you up too much, but I think that like something that Emily is also very good at is writing characters who are all distinct and also all like feel deeply relatable. Like I feel like each one of those sisters feels like a full person and also feels like distinctive viewpoints that or positions within a family that I feel like I've experienced it at different times. But Mary, like just the crippling, really earnest, like socially awkward, like desire to be seen by the world, I think is just, she gets it. She just fucking gets it.
And we were actually also going to ask which Bennett girl or which character in Are the Bennett Girls Okay
Fuck!
you relate
I
to. So
ruined it!
you actually streamlined it perfectly.
I think it is. I think for me it is Mary, and then also I think Kitty. I feel like kinship with Kitty, who I don't know how she is in the novel, but in Emily's play she's sort of like, I don't know. You tell me if this feels apt, but she's sort of like constantly trying to sort of mediate conflicts between members of the family and keep people in check.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm like a Lizzie Jane switch. I think like as the oldest sister, oldest kid, a lot of the like Jane having to do the right thing mentality feels really intense, and also like not feeling like you're allowed to be mad or gaining access to that sort of later on. I also like honestly wrote part of the play as I was like dealing with a lot of heartbreak and grief coming out of the breakup. And I think tapping into the fact that Jane is grieving a future for a majority of the story was something that I was interested in, and how that changes how you relate to your sisters. And then I think Lizzie, I relate to in a lot of ways. I think the way that she cares about being right more than being generous sometimes, the way that she doesn't really have any time for the men of her world and doesn't really want to participate in their experiences, I think is very much my lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for someone who hasn't read the book Pride and Prejudice, you sure do have a grasp on what those characters are.
I appreciate that. That's nice. I'm so good at guessing. I'm so good at guessing.
So, final question before we get into Are the Bennett Girls Okay more in detail is your hottest Austen take.
I honestly, when you said this question, I was trying to think about it really hard. I'm gonna go with, I think that Jane Austen was actually six men in a trench coat, and they just sort of switched.
That's actually a really popular one.
Yeah,
So yeah, you tapped into the zeitgeist of Jane Austen conspiracy theories there.
totally.
Mhm. And I think that vaccines cause autism.
Austen Mosh.
Austin, sorry, Austin. I heard the wrong shit.
Oh my god.
Woo! Oh boy. Yeah. On that beautiful note, let's get further into Are the Bennett Girls okay? Are they? I guess we should start with that question. Are the Bennett Girls okay?
I mean, are any of us at any point in time?
Nah.
I think there's a sort of an active question that gets launched in many of my group chats, are like, hey, are we good? Like, are we okay? And most often the answer is not, but in what particular ways the horrors are visiting us in that given moment is the more interesting question. So it's also honestly, titling is so hard for plays sometimes. Sometimes it just shows up and it's like, yeah, that's always going to be the title. I famously have some pretty long titles, and a lot of them are not super easy to say. And There were a couple of titles floating around for this one. Whether or not it was going to be called Pride and Prejudice was an open question because it was written for this theater company specifically. I titled it in conversation with the artistic director, Eric, and it was clear that it needed to have some sort of reference to the world of Pride and Prejudice inside of the title so people would know. But it couldn't really be called just Pride and Prejudice because I think we would get a lot of angry tweets if people are still on there. A lot of angry blue skies. What are they? What are they, Mosh? When you write something on Blue Sky, what are those?
I'm not really on Blue Sky. I got taken off Blue Sky because I impersonated. Do you know the media site Them?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
I snagged the username Them on Blue Sky before they could get on it, and then I impersonated them, and then I got kicked off. So I haven't been on Blue Sky in I think a year.
Wow. You're an icon.
But on Twitter they still just call it tweets, I think. Unless you're like a psycho, like a fascist.
Right.
And then they call it something. I don't even remember what I think they just say like X posts, which let's talk about that for 45 minutes.
Yeah. So, having never read Pride and Prejudice and not being like a Jane Austen person, Emily, why did you decide to adapt Pride and Prejudice, and like what inspired you to write Are the Bennet Girls Okay?
Yeah, so honestly, it was this theater company asked me to. It's sort of in a wink, wink, nudge, nudge way. They'd commissioned me for a different play and passed on that, and then passed on this other play that I offered, but essentially said like, "Hey, we can't do these plays, but if you happen to have a Pride and Prejudice lying around," and I sort of had to do the like, "Yeah, let me go get her. She's just getting ready." And then like the Mrs. Doubtfire like pie in the face, like hello sort of thing. No, I have never looked at adapting a novel into a play before, and I've done some adaptations. Most people would not necessarily know that they are adaptations of the particular source material, but
Emily's being modest. She wrote The Cursed Child. And JK is a good friend of the family.
good friend of the family. She is. Sorry, they are. I think one of my big inspos in terms of like how to be a woman writer. No.
I'm losing it.
Masha also got kicked off Twitter briefly for sending a tweet of Avada Kedavra at J.K. Rowling, and it was highlighted as a death threat. And were you like suspended for a minute or kicked off?
I don't remember. That was like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was a long time.
But I'm back. They can't kill me.
Oh my God. You're doing the Lord's work, honestly.
Yeah. The Blue Sky stuff was me being like, Shawn Mendes is an alien faggot, like just saying crazy shit, like stuff that Them isn't brave enough to publish.
Of course.
Anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about something else.
Yes.
Yeah. So I really just wrote this play because I was asked to, and I frankly I didn't know what in the story was pertinent to me. And I honestly struggled for a little bit to find my way in and talked to a lot of people about it, talked to people who I knew liked Jane Austen, who liked Pride and Prejudice, to try to figure out what was the thing that they got out of it. I think I felt pretty allergic to any sort of straight love story. And honestly, at the time, like any love story at all, but particularly any sort of straight romance. And so I wasn't really sure what was in the story for me. And then looking at the Wikipedia entry in a very deep focus sort of way, the two things that got me were the relationships between the sisters and also the character of Mrs. Bennet, who I think is the most interesting character to me personally.
I love that take. That is a bona fide Austen hot take, but I really like it. It ties into another question that we have on the list here, which is that Mrs. Bennet is a comedic force and a menace to her daughters, but she's also the living reminder of their circumstances in the economics of their dating lives. The economics of dating in Jane Austen. Graham, play a sound effect.
I'm a human soundboard, so I can just point at me.
Yeah, Mosh, can you give a boing?
I won't do that, but I can do like a hubba what now? Like, how about that?
Clip it, Graham.
That's really good.
But basically, back like when it comes to that sort of element of the story, what was it that that clearly informed the writing of the play? What was it about it that drew you to it as sort of a guiding force of the play, and also how does it sort of relate to our now?
Yeah, I think I really enter stories through character. So thinking about the larger economics was never it for me, but thinking about the way that Mrs. Bennet is characterized and treated in even modern adaptations or current retellings was really fascinating to me because this question popped up in my brain with regards to Lizzie and her mom, which is why do smart girls hate their mom? And that feels like such a specific and really, really modern media trope of like the smart girl who hates her mom. And Elizabeth Bennet feels sort of like the example of that. And I think the canonization of Mr. Bennet as this feminist hero really bothered me. And the idea that this frankly terrible sack of potatoes man is getting any credit for abandoning his family to certain poverty and homelessness is cuckoo cuckoo to me. And Mrs. Bennet's penchant for drama bordering on narcissism, hyperbolicness, social anxiety, the way that she is overwrought, and the way that she is stressful to be around, and I'm sure stressful to be, was really interesting to me because the question was just what if she is all of those things? What if she is the sort of mom who we don't like or mom who we're embarrassed by, which is a majority of the roles for women over 50 or are like crazy mom or crazy grandma or like mean mom or it's always mom and it's always negative. And it's often in relation to a girl, even in sort of like feminist media, there's a lot of cunty moms and not in a like cunt mother way, but like cunt mother way. And I just felt like it was worth giving her the benefit of the doubt and worth testing if she's right. Because I think ultimately she is in a lot of ways. I don't agree with her conclusions or how she decides to treat people based on her perception of reality, but I think her perception of reality is dead on. And her understanding of the way that women are valued as economic assets or liabilities is 100% correct. And I think her experience of having gone through the meat market of marriage and succeeded being undervalued by her daughters who she's trying to lead through that same exercise is really interesting and must be really frustrating to be that person. So that was my hook in terms of the external pressures is what does it do to this person who is designed to be written off.
I absolutely love that, and I think that you're so right that Mrs. Bennet hasn't really been given a chance in modern adaptation to, like, be right and be taken seriously, but when you dig into, like, the actual time period and the text, she 100% was right, and I'm someone who famously on this podcast really fell into the Mr. Bennet is hot route.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you don't put in your like deep, unending lust for Daddy Bennett, then you are being dishonest, my dear.
Yeah, no. I'm gonna admit that I call him Daddy Bennett and am for some reason very attracted to him. And people have been like, he's like a terrible father, blah blah blah. I'm like, I don't care or think so. But for the first time, and I've watched so many Pride and Prejudice adaptations and I've read so many Pride and Prejudice adaptations, and I don't think this is a spoiler because it's very early on in the play, but Mr. Bennet in this is dying, which is a trope that actually comes up in a lot of Austen adaptations where like a father dies and leaves the rest of the family destitute or like leaves them in fear of becoming destitute. So in Are the Bennett Girls Okay? He's dying, and it was the first time that I actually got it. I'm like, I've spent years studying this shit, and I was like, "Oh, they're, like, really gonna be in trouble when he dies." So putting it, like, so prevalent and, it like, prominent, whatever the word is for, like, it's about to happen, it's, like, very in the mind, it
Concretizing the threat that's looming over the whole story and making it something that's actually about to happen rather than something that's like a 10-year down the line problem.
yeah,
Yeah.
Hmm.
yeah,
We call it a ticking clock in theater. It's always good to have a ticking clock, sometimes a literal ticking clock on stage, that something is going to happen. And so you have to be here in real time. You have to be starting the story now, because if you started it before or later, it wouldn't matter that you're here in this space with these people.
exactly.
And time inside of theater, I think, is one of my favorite things to. It's the reason to be in a play and not in a movie.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So speaking of Daddy Bennett, our problematic fave, in Are the Bennett Girls Okay? There is one male actor, and he plays all the male roles.
Guilty.
Oh my God, not Masha, but Cedric. That's amazing.
What gave you the idea to do that? And why focus on the males that you chose to focus on?
Yes, there is one boy in the cast, and not more than one. And Eddie plays all the men. The actor's name is Eddie Benzoni. He's an incredible actor. I worked with him at school last year, and when this started to take shape, I called him and was like, can you stay free for this amount of time? Because I need your skills. It was always going to be one man. I don't care about men. I don't really have any use for them most of the time. I don't participate in experiences around them very often. I don't know how many different ways I can say I'm a hardcore dyke. I just don't give a shit about men, and they're not very interesting to me. And it's hard for me, honestly, to write in their voices without it becoming cliche, which I think I could certainly be accused of in this play, that some of the characterizations of the men are slightly cliche. I don't think inaccurate to real men that I've encountered, but cliched. I think the focus being on the sisters and the women was always the most important thing. And so how the men enter into that world. I also didn't need any scenes with any men together. And anytime you can double cast something, it's great. Originally, the other double casting that I was going to potentially do was Georgiana and Charlotte, because they're never in the same place at the same time. But it became apparent how important it was for Charlotte to be of Lizzie's world in some capacity, and Georgiana to feel separate from that world. And I think having an actor double, it just means something. And I didn't want that to mean anything. And so the doubling of all of the men became the cheapest option and also the most rich storytelling wise.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad.
No, it was fantastic. It was very fun, but also I thought like did the trick of making the men sort of outside of the story a little bit, and that they're sort of catalysts for the action, but all the growth and development is with the ladies.
Yeah, they're also not actually that present, at least as far as I could tell from the Wikipedia entry and my memory of the movie. Like they're not there. And when they are there, they're just sort of standing in the corner of the room and the women are talking about them. I think another big, honestly, a big part of my inspiration around the way that the men are represented by one actor has to do with the fact that I have so many friends whose entire relationship journey I've like lived through alongside them, but I've never actually met their shitty boyfriend. I've only like read the text messages, I've only like heard the voice notes and like been on a couch while she's like sobbing over a text message with this fuckwad sent her, like, and so that I think being the amount that I wanted the men to influence the world felt pretty important before I knew whether or not the play was going to be set in our current day world. There was a thought that I had around having Darcy's first proposal literally be a voice memo because I feel like a lot of women have like sat on a couch next to their friend and like listened to the world's shittiest voice note
Yeah.
and been like, what the fuck is this? And that type of conversation definitely landed inside of the play, but inside of the Mr. Collins proposal, which there were a lot of questions early on about like, well, why don't we see it? And it's like, because that's not how I experience my friends' big life moments. I'm not there for them. I am there for them telling me about them. And that is honestly just as entertaining, or if not more so. And that experience felt more important to me than watching it happen.
And I just want to distance myself real quick from some of the comments that Emily made about men. I am a single bisexual vixen with amazing bangs. And if you are a man who's listening to this podcast and you want to ride this cyclone, you can write in.
We have like 4 men who listen to this podcast, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Bring sure, everybody in.
Quartet. A quartet for Masha is my
Yeah.
next play.
A barbershop quartet.
It's about the Titanic.
Oh, sure. Because I was going to say, if you wanted to adapt a Chekhov play in the same way that you adapted this and do a quartet for Masha, I would be there.
I definitely have some Chekhov plays in me. I have to wait for some people to die first. We're Russian,
Gotcha.
so gotta wait for some elderly relatives to move on.
Yeah. Speaking of, well, I guess we've talked a lot about your adaptation process, but I just want to go back to it. When like reading the press blurbs about this play, they talked about your adaptation process and that you were very intentional about not wanting to read the source material first. And I wanted you to just talk about that and like what that means to you. Yeah.
Honestly, a big part of it is that I think looking at stories from the perspective of not what they actually are, but what the myth of them is a little bit more interesting to me. So I wrote an adaptation of The Bacchae, and I did not reread The Bacchae before I wrote that. I've written a couple of Shakespeare adaptations, and I know those plays better than I know Pride and Prejudice, but I didn't reread those plays. The thing that I love about adaptations is they're just so easy, just like way easier than writing a real play. I don't know why more people don't do it because it's just like a walk in the park. It's really low effort, high reward because the marketing's just all built in and you don't really have to do very much. Uh, um, no, I like adaptations because I think there's a reason that we look at stories that have existed for thousands of years. And the thing that I get out of adaptations is who do I know in this story? Like, who is the literal person who I can run into on the street who also exists in this story? And what is the thing that I have access to with them? So a lot of the modern language has less to do with trying to update Jane Austen and more just how do people talk? How do I hear people in my head? Who are these people? How real can they be? And to me, the most real versions of people are people who talk the way that I talk, the way that my friends talk. This is a total sidebar, but something that has been really fascinating to me is there have been a couple of responses to the show that people are surprised by swearing in the play, and people have used the term F bomb, which I just think is the funniest phrase in the like ever. The fact that anybody has ever said the phrase F bomb is so funny to me. But there's something about that that I find really interesting, just in like, oh, you don't talk to women? Because I say fuck all the time, and it's not me trying to be edgy or yeah, this is Jane Austen, but not like you've seen her before. It's just like that's how I talk. That's how people talk to me. And it feels weird. It would feel really strange to make the language strange to myself when I'm trying to pull people towards a version of humanity that's to me more recognizable.
Yeah.
I think we were going to ask if it was meaningful for you guys to collaborate on this as sisters because it was a sister's tale. And we love a sister's tale.
We do love a sister's tale.
I avoided it as much as possible.
Oh, fuck you.
I just said no, but my mom was really pushing me. She was like, Masha needs a job. She has clinical depression. Is there anything you can do? And I said, I also have clinical depression. Interesting that you're not pushing her to get me a job, but that's fine. No,
Okay, I'll tell the heartwarming version of this story, which is that since I was in high school or maybe earlier, me, Emily, and our sister Allison had long talked about like this sort of dream of like having a theater company together because all of us like do theater and enjoy theater in different ways. And Allison very wisely is now like has chosen a much smarter career for herself. But anyway, so this dream has existed in our family in various forms. And over the past few years, Emily and I have gotten to work together more and more on different plays about sisters that Emily has written. And it, for me, has been like personally really satisfying and like also feels like some version of that dream that we talked about for so long coming true. And that obviously we don't have a theater company, but like getting to work on this piece of writing with someone who like obviously I'm not working on the writing, but like working on this project with someone who I obviously love so much and whose writing I respect and admire so much has been really wonderful.
yeah,
Do you feel bad now?
I do feel bad. I will say that Masha is the coolest, funniest person I know, and it's really awesome that I'm related to her because I get her for cheap. I think that, yeah, Masha's just super, super talented, and it's cool to be able to rely on that when I need a ringer. I think that there's something any playwright wants, I think, to have a cohort of actors that you can call upon and slot into different things. And it's always helpful to be able to imagine a person when you're writing a scene or writing a character. And to be able to have Masha in my brain writing with me, essentially, because I can hear her voice pretty clearly and know what she can do is just such a gift and so, so much fun. And it would really suck if she weren't as talented as she is. Like, I would feel pretty embarrassed. But luckily, she's, I think, probably the most talented of the three of us. She certainly is the best tenor saxophone player. The three of us.
It's a low bar to clear.
Yes, I've never played the tenor saxophone, and Allison is a pretty terrible bass clarinetist, so
Really bad at
she's
it.
really bad. But no, Masha happens to be the tallest, the prettiest, the smartest, the most musically talented, the funniest, and she like really unfairly got the biggest boobs. She could have sized down and fit, in the family, but she opted for a C cup, and that feels pointed.
I paid handsomely.
Masha, Mary was our favorite part of this play.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's really important to emphasize this that for this is the first time I've watched Pride and Prejudice and felt that I needed Mary to be okay at the end of it. Usually I'm fine with her existing in whatever form she does.
Yeah, we feel like she's generally maligned in a lot of Austen adaptations, and by Austen herself, she maligns most of her characters named Mary. One might wonder if she had someone named Mary in her life, but anyway,
And this goes back to Mansfield Park.
yeah, but in Mansfield Park, there's a nice. Well, I guess she's not nice. I don't know yet. I've just started reading it.
You're like 4 chapters in. We'll see where it lands.
Mary's hot in Mansfield Park.
Oh, there is a Mary?
Yeah.
Ah!
There's a Mary in every Jane Austen book.
Zing!
The Marys are all complex, shall we say, and the Janes are all perfect sweet angels. So.
Yes.
Totally.
But we wanted to know from you what was your favorite part of playing her and what you found the most challenging.
That's a great question. I think what I really enjoyed about playing Mary was like, and Emily again is really good at writing characters who require actors to be both like good comedians and good like character actors, but also like really live through something. And I feel like I came into this process mostly having worked as like a stand-up and like doing improv and sketch stuff. And so I had this like basis in like charactery stuff and clowny stuff that I felt like I got to bring to the table. But I honestly think like through rehearsal and even through previews and still through performances, I feel like I have learned so much more about acting and how to like really connect with to sort of bridge the gap between these two parts of my life that are like playing characters who feel real and who I can like connect with the emotional truth of what they're living through, and then also having these comedic skills that require you to have some awareness while you're on stage in the same way that you have to have with like stand up of how the audience is receiving what you're doing. And I think that that has been like an incredibly satisfying challenge. I feel like 2 weeks into performances, I sort of hit a wall and was like, because I had never done more than I think like 5, 7, something somewhere around that number of like shows of a thing. And now we're at 60 something out of 90 something. So around 2 weeks in, I really hit a wall and was like, I cannot imagine doing this show one more time. And I think the thing that was really nice about pushing through that is that I got to sort of like reapproach these scenes that I'd been doing over and over again, kind of through a like stand-up-y lens. And once I had that sort of base laid of like, okay, I can feel Mary inside me. I was able to then sort of have this layer on top of it of like, how do I keep this real and how do I keep myself like reactive to the things that are going on around me, even as I've watched them happen over and over and over again, every night, while also thinking really surgically about like timing and what the like checking in on the audience and trying to read their temperature without being so like hammy or stand uppy or like winky about it. So yeah, I think that just from like a professional perspective, I feel like that has really allowed me to like learn so much and continue to learn so much about acting and performance and comedy. But more specifically with Mary, it is so cathartic to play her because it feels like I'm getting to expose parts of myself that are like cringy and vulnerable and angry and she just cares so much about everything that's happening and is constantly trying and doing a really bad job of pretending that she doesn't care about what's happening. And that as an actor is like, a satisfying challenge and also just feels like personally like like, it feels like therapy sometimes. Yeah,
I love
that's a
that.
long answer.
That was a great answer. And like you did such a great job of your performance is very subtle and that like it didn't take a lot for us to care really deeply about Mary because like she sees something happening and you just I feel like at least we were like watching your face, watching everything else happening and we just like our hearts were breaking like we loved her so much. So yeah, we loved it.
Thanks.
And one piece of intel we got on your own connection to Mary is that Mary, our dear book version of Mary, big piano player,
Hmm.
big song player, big music girl, no matter who wants to hear her
Hmm.
at any given point in time. And we have it on good authority that you actually wrote the songs that Mary plays in Are the Bennett Girls Okay?
Hmm.
And I wonder if you can talk about how you guys came to use those songs and what it was like to use those songs as part of the character.
Totally. And I can't because it's like a sort of a trade secret thing. So I would love to talk about. No. Yeah, yeah. So Emily Emily had reached out to me like 6, 9 months ago, some time ago, and was like, I'm writing this play. It's an adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. Can I use this song that you wrote in high school? Because I have this character who needs to sing a song that sounds like it was written by a teenager. And it's this song that I wrote in high school when I was still a gay guy that was like about my first love. Shout out to Sebastian in Mexico City if you're listening.
I
He was
hope
great.
he is.
Yeah. Well, he's gay, and I'm we had something, and I just
This has all been a ploy to get Sebastian back.
yeah, yeah. Oh, sidebar, least favorite part of playing Mary would be Emily made me transition to play the role, and that has been tough. It's been tough.
But I started that forced transitioning when she was 17, so I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that she was still a child.
Right. We've
Yeah.
been playing the long game.
Yeah.
Fuck, what were you talking about? Oh, the song.
Yeah.
Yeah, Emily was like, "Can I use this character needs to play songs that sound like sort of cringy and earnest. Can I use this beautiful song that you wrote when you were a teenager about this very meaningful love in your life, whatever?" And then I had to sort of edit the lyrics because the original lyrics to the song are like pretty like sexual and also very clearly gay. So then I had to be like, okay, well, this has to be a little different. And then she has two more songs throughout the play. One of them is the song that I wrote in like early college. That's just that was sort of like it was like after a breakup and I was like mad at this person. It's not a very good song. The first song I'm like that's a good song. The second song meh. The last song Emily wrote the lyrics for and then I wrote music for. Actually, okay. This is another like one of my favorite parts of this process is that going into this, I had like sort of a cursory knowledge of like the piano. I know some like music theory and was able to draw from that, but like this song that I'd written in high school, I had a piano part for it, but I couldn't really play it at tempo. And so being in this play, I was forced to get a lot better at the piano, and now I have just been like getting back into it and like writing more songs, and that has been really lovely. So thanks for that.
You're welcome. I would like to correct the record and just say that I did not say that the song was cringy. I said I need a song that is heartbreaking.
But that everyone laughs at.
Yeah, but that's not cringy.
Okay.
They're different things.
If you guys want to go off for a sec, we're just going to argue about this
We're
for
gonna
like 30
fight.
minutes.
We're gonna fight for a bit. Yeah. No, I really love that song that Masha wrote. I've like loved it since she wrote it in high school. I've always been a little bit jealous that she could write something that nice and beautiful and poetic. I think there's one of the lyrics in it is "You're the space between and I love you," and I just think that that's the perfect lyric. That's like the most perfect lyric anybody's ever written. Hate that I didn't write it. Love that I'm related to the person who did. And so there wasn't really ever going to be another song. And then it was just trying to match the rest of it to that. I had written lyrics for a different song that then Masha said, instead of writing a new song, I have this other song we can use. So it was really nice to work with Masha on the music. And Masha's an incredible composer. She's written, I think, aside from these songs, one of the best songs in musical theater canon, which is for our Someday musical about the life of Emily Dickinson, but told from the perspective of her Cockney maid.
Ooh.
Who doesn't exist. And we're going to get there someday, and it's going to be great.
Incredible. I cannot wait to go there and see it.
So I guess our final question is for Emily, and it's about the process of adapting this play. I guess for you, what was the part you were most excited to bring to the stage, and what part was like the most difficult for you to adapt?
I think I was really excited, honestly, to write a different type of Elizabeth Bennet. I really wrote that role for Elise Steingold, who's playing the role now, and we lucked out. She was available. She is one of the best performers I've ever worked with. She's psychotically funny. She's an insanely great improviser. Her wheelhouse is actually like improv comedy. And she happens to also be able to do like really deep dramatic work. She's played a great villain. She can also sing and dance. She's just the greatest. And if you ever get the chance to look into her eyeballs, they are the craziest colors in the world. She's strikingly beautiful and just
Yes.
a dream to work with. She's the nicest person.
She's also, she is the nicest person on earth.
That makes me happy.
She really is. She is the nicest, like I would say pathological. Like my friends from school, I'm in New Haven right now in school, and my friends went down to see it. And she was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much for coming. Are you guys, do you need a ride? I have my car." And they're like, "No, we're fine." She's like, "Oh, I could drive." Like offered to drive them back to New Haven. She lives in Brooklyn. Like she's the greatest person in the world. And so I was really excited about writing an Elizabeth Bennet for her. I think something that I really care about, which I guess hasn't been talked about a lot in the conversations that have been had around this adaptation, which I just find interesting, is the fact that my Elizabeth Bennet is fat. She always has been. To me, she always will be. It's in the character description. I think the way that Elizabeth Bennet is treated in the story is identical to the way that my fat friends are treated in their romantic endeavors, and the way that people talk to fat women about romance and how much they deserve romance, how grateful they should be, how demure they should be, how quiet they should be, how much space they should take up, how much they should ask for, how much they should get to expect, was something that I was really invested in exploring, and something that I just really care about. And I'm glad and proud that I wrote a Lizzie that can hold all of those truths, and those truths are not the sole purpose of her existence. And to me, Elizabeth Bennet is a queer fat woman, and it's really nice to see people receive that character without questions about why she needs to be those things, in order to be valued, and the fact that the story doesn't have to be about her queerness or her fatness specifically as a plot point, but her story is affected by those things in the way that all of our stories are affected by the categories that we fit into. So I'd say that is something that I'm really proud of that I haven't talked about as much. What was your second question? I'm so sorry. There were two parts.
What was the hardest thing to adapt?
Without spoiling too much, I a little bit wrote myself into a hole, which I often don't know how I'm going to end a story or a play, until I get there. And then I usually figure it out by the time I get to the end. And there's a pretty dramatic thing that happens towards the end of Act Two, but it can't really be the last thing that happens in the play for story arc purposes. And I really didn't know how I was going to get out of it. And I think it could be fairly argued that the pace of it is a little fast, or it feels a little bit tied together with a ribbon. But I think choosing to make a big departure from the original story in kind of only one major way meant that I opened myself up to a lot of potentials of, oh, now if anything can happen, then anything can happen. And I struggled with that, and I struggled with whether or not I wanted the story to end the same way that it does in other versions. And ultimately, I found it to be more satisfying to end with Darcy and Lizzie getting together than to not. But finding how that happens, I think, felt a little bit wonky. And it's maybe something that people could tell if they go to see it.
The way that it ends is my favorite thing about the adaptation. I think it's like crazy good and smart, and I cry every night.
Yeah, it has a different commentary on them getting together than every other adaptation does.
Yeah, I hard agree, and I thought it was a perfect wrap up to Lizzie's arc through the play. Again, without giving anything away, but I thought it was seamless.
Yeah.
So if it was hard fought, it was well earned. So major props to you on that.
And before we wrap up, and maybe this will be kind of hand in hand with what you just shared, but can you each share the thing that you're most excited for the audiences to see?
Mm, my haircut.
Nice.
I'm always excited for audiences to see these actors. I think we really lucked out with the cast, not just Masha, although I'm glad people are getting to see her. But there are some really fantastic performances across the board in the cast, and I'm just excited for people to get to see that level of talent every night. It feels really cool, and I feel very, very lucky to have such great actors.
Yeah, cast is crazy good, and everyone is like very kind and wonderful to work with.
Nobody's saying that about Masha, but they're saying it about each other.
Yeah.
Yep, I am a human monster.
But with great hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've paid dearly for it.
So, thank you both so much for joining us. This has been truly a delight. I've laughed harder in this call than I did all week. So, thank you both so much for that. When does this show close and where can people go to see it?
This show closes December 21st, so definitely be sure to go see it before then. If you don't want to be around your family, it's a great thing to do over the Thanksgiving holidays. If
Mhm.
you don't like people, um, definitely a great reason to be without them for 2.5 hours. It is playing at the West End Theater on West 86th Street in Manhattan. The theater company is Bedlam Theater. And if you just Google "Are the Bennet Girls Okay?" tickets, which is what I do every single time I try to get somebody tickets, it will pop up. You will be able to get a ticket, hopefully. It's not sold out.
We can also drop the link in our info for this episode as well, so you guys can check that out.
It is selling out, so get tickets soon because we're booking out a few weeks now.
Yeah, and they've extended like 3 times because they just keep selling out. So you guys got to get there and get those tickets. And if our listeners want to find either of you on the internet, do you have any socials you want to plug or any like other things you have coming up that you want to share about?
I am going to be baking several cakes over Christmas, I
Ooh,
believe. I'm not sharing them with anybody, but I just want people to know that.
yeah.
My Instagram is not available to the public, and that's because I have a horrific social media addiction. And the things that I share on my Instagram story are like really not for public consumption. It's like a lot of really horrible AI art that I don't ethically agree with.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's so fair.
It is really bad. She is sick. You can find me on Instagram at Masha Cometh. That's MASHACOMETH. You can also find me on Instagram at Fake Them Headlines, where I make fake headlines by the media site Them, and on Twitter at Masha Party.
Perfect.
I also, if anybody wants to come to New Haven in May, I have a play that's going up, part of the Carlotta Festival. I don't know what that play is going to be yet because I'm still writing it, but it is technically available to the public. So anybody who wants to see whatever happens in May, they can come to see that.
Awesome. For all of our New Haven listeners, you heard it here first.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Listeners, for next week, we're going to continue on with Mansfield Park, so no interruption in that coverage either here. Just a little treat on the feed for you. Just a little treat. So until next time, stay proper.
And go get your tickets to Are the Bennet Girls Okay?
Yay, thank you so much.
Yay!
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's really nice of you. Thanks for having us.
Of course, we had such a good time.
Oh, good. Thank you to your listeners as well. I wish them the best.
And Jane Austen. We wish Jane Austen the best too.
And Jane Austen. Yeah. If you guys have her on the podcast next, just let me know. I'll have some questions for her I could submit.
All right, sounds good. Pod and Prejudice is edited by Molly Burdick and audio produced by Graham Cook. Our show art is designed by Torrance Brown. Our show is transcribed by SpeechDocs Podcast Transcription. For transcripts and to learn more about our team, check out our website at podandprejudice.com. To keep up with the show, you can follow us on social media at Pod and Prejudice. If you love what you hear, check out our Patreon to see how you can support us, buy some merch at podandprejudice.dashery.com, or just drop us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcasts. Stay proper.